Meantime, the Lakers. Okay, so here's what LeBron says. There have been times when we're at our best, we look really good. And there are other times where it's disgusting.
You know what that sounds like, Ernie?
What?
Sounds like an old man. Like when you wake up in the morning, sometimes I'll be like, ooh, I feel good. Then that next day you'd be like,
that's
sciatica,
disgusting.
sciatica, it's hurting me.
Charles Barkley didn't hold back in his latest comments about the Los Angeles Lakers, mixing humor with sharp criticism. From comparing them to the Washington Generals to joking about Father Time catching up to LeBron James, Barkley delivered his trademark blend of comedy and blunt analysis. Beneath the punchlines, though, was a real question about legitimacy in a stacked Western Conference. Are the Lakers true contenders? Or are they living off reputation and star power while deeper, younger teams separate themselves? Barkley's style makes it entertaining. But the underlying debate is serious. Does this roster have the consistency, defense, and health to threaten anyone in a 7-game series? Or are they closer to first-round fodder than championship material?
Why do you hate the Lakers? Chuck, tell us.
Why I hate the Lakers? It's always somebody else's fault. Remember 3 years ago, it was Russell Westbrook's fault. Then it was Frank Vogel's fault. Then it was D'Angelo Russell's fault. Then it was Darvin Ham's fault. It's always somebody else's fault. And it bothers me. Listen, you don't always blame other people for your shortcomings.
Before even breaking down what he said, you almost have to appreciate Charles Barkley for turning Lakers discourse into performance art. When he talks about the Los Angeles Lakers, it's never just analysis, it's theater. The timing, the delivery, the exaggerated comparisons, the total lack of fear about whose feelings might get hurt, it's elite-level sports television. Love him or hate him, Barkley has a way of cutting through recycled talking points and making even the most exhausted storyline feel fresh just because of how unapologetically he delivers it.
Lakers like an Oprah Winfrey show. You get a basket. You get a basket. You get a basket. Everybody who plays against the Lakers, they gonna make everybody look good. I mean, they're like the Washington Generals. They every team's the Globetrotters against them. I mean, and we can keep sugarcoating it, and I know they're going to make us talk about the Lakers. The Lakers are a mediocre team.
If you watch Inside the NBA regularly, you already know the Los Angeles Lakers are basically a recurring segment at this point. Not because Charles Barkley loves them, but because they consistently give him material. Whether it's inconsistent defense, confusing rotations, or late-game collapses, Chuck treats every Lakers stumble like comedic gold. He doesn't just critique them, he performs it. The pauses, the facial expressions, the exaggerated comparisons, it's become must-see TV whenever LA struggles. And when the Lakers are underperforming, you can almost see Barkley light up, knowing another legendary rant is loading.
And the Lakers proved to what I keep saying, the Lakers stink, plain and simple. We have to talk about them because the media is infatuated with the Lakers. But the Lakers are not a good team. They got zero athletic ability. They got a good shot every time. The Lakers could never keep them in front of them. This was a coaching masterpiece by Jason Kidd because there's no way that team that the Mavs put out there, especially one winning by 20, basically.
The Los Angeles Lakers have become such a reliable source of on-air material that when Charles Barkley hears a quote like that from LeBron James, you can almost see the setup forming in real time. LeBron describing the team as disgusting at times is the kind of brutally honest soundbite that analysts dream about. On one hand, it can be read as accountability, a veteran acknowledging inconsistency and demanding better. On the other, it highlights just how volatile the team's performances have been, swinging from impressive stretches to flat, unfocused outings. For Barkley, that contrast is comedic fuel. For the Lakers, though, it's a much bigger issue. Contenders aren't supposed to oscillate between really good and disgusting. That kind of inconsistency is exactly what keeps the debate and the jokes alive.
You just described who he should be and who the team should be based on what their personnel is at that time. They are old in certain parts. They don't have perimeter.
Wait, he's the only one old.
But they don't have perimeter defense. Young at the perimeter. So now there's no resistance for guys that get downhill.
Yes.
And I think that is the biggest thing. You know, yes, they don't have a great shot blockers, but they have shot block ability. But they do not have resistance at the 1, 2, and 3 position And that is indicative of why they play like that.
When Charles Barkley flipped LeBron James's disgusting quote into that aging joke on Inside the NBA, it worked because it was layered. On the surface, it was comedy. The one day you feel great, the next day the sciatica is screaming line was classic Barkley timing. But underneath the punchline was a basketball point about inconsistency and the reality of being 40 in an 82-game season. It wasn't just a cheap shot, it was commentary wrapped in humor. Barkley has always used exaggeration to spotlight what he sees as truth, and in this case the joke landed because it connected the Lakers' night-to-night volatility with the broader theme of aging stars trying to sustain elite performance. That blend of sharp analysis and locker-room-style humor is exactly why the segment resonated. That's why the joke hit. Because beneath the humor from Charles Barkley was a real basketball truth. LeBron James is operating in his 40s in a league built on speed, recovery, and relentless scheduling. When the Los Angeles Lakers look dominant one night and completely flat the next, it's fair to connect some of that volatility to the reality of late career wear and tear. Back-to-backs, travel, and playoff-level expectations don't pause for age. And Barkley understands that when the Lakers are the topic, you don't stop at one punchline. Because the inconsistency itself keeps providing material. The humor works precisely because it mirrors what fans are already seeing, flashes of brilliance mixed with stretches that raise serious questions about sustainability.
JJ Bennett going more to his own, too, to address the defensive issues on that team.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, like Luka and Austin Reeves have been terrific offensively. Luka flirt with a triple-double every night. Austin Reeves been killing the league, averaging over 25 points, but they've been a turnstile on defense. And whoever comes to town can just beat them off the dribble, drive and kick, and get other guys open. But you wanted to also get more from DeAndre Ayton as an anchor when you acquire him as the Lakers. And he's been pedestrian a lot of times, and I just don't think the Lakers, even though LeBron does a really good job at his
But when you open a bee's nest and all the bees, it's hard to block all the bees. You got DeAndre in there like this. Like, come on, it's like you got to have resistance out front.
But even offensively.
On Inside the NBA, once the laugh settled, Charles Barkley and the panel shifted into real basketball analysis about the Los Angeles Lakers' defensive structure. The core issue they highlighted wasn't just effort, it was personnel. If your guards and wings can't contain dribble penetration at the point of attack, the entire scheme collapses. When ball handlers consistently get downhill, the backline is forced into constant rotation, help defenders have to overcommit, and even solid rim protectors get put in impossible positions. That's where the expectations around DeAndre Ayton come in. He was brought in to stabilize the paint, absorb pressure created by perimeter leaks, and provide physical resistance at the rim. But when breakdowns are happening every possession, even a capable big can look average. Defense at the NBA level is interconnected. If the first layer fails repeatedly, the rest of the structure is always scrambling rather than dictating. The bee's nest analogy actually captures the structural problem well. When the Los Angeles Lakers can't contain the ball at the point of attack, every possession turns into a chain reaction. Guards get downhill, wings collapse the lane, and suddenly the backline is facing multiple threats at once. Even a capable big like DeAndre Ayton, who hasn't been disastrous but also hasn't transformed the defense, ends up reacting instead of dictating. Rim protection works best as a deterrent behind solid perimeter resistance. It's not designed to clean up 4 simultaneous breakdowns. Once rotations start flying, shooters are left open, rebound positioning gets compromised, and the math tilts heavily toward the offense. Defense in today's NBA is layered, and when the first layer is porous, everything behind it looks worse than it actually is.
They're going to make us talk about the Lakers. The Lakers are a mediocre team. Now, they got some really good teams in the West that we should be talking about, because I'm starting to get on this San Antonio bandwagon right now. Obviously, we got OKC and Denver. We got Houston. But, man, them Spurs, they're knocking on that door.
Offensively, there's very little to nitpick. Luka Doncic is a nightly triple-double threat who controls pace, bends defenses, and generates efficient looks whether he's scoring or facilitating. Austin Reeves has taken another leap, pouring in over 25 a game and thriving as a secondary creator who can also close. When the Los Angeles Lakers are humming, they can hang 115 to 125 on almost anyone because they have shot-making, playmaking, and spacing. The issue isn't whether they can score, it's whether they can string together enough stops to let that offensive firepower actually translate into consistent wins.
Still, number 5 in the West right now, the Lakers, and for the 11th time this season, expected to have LeBron and Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic together on the floor.
You get a basket. Which has
been a rarity.
What you want to do? What you want to do?
When Charles Barkley broke out the Oprah impression, channeling Oprah Winfrey from The Oprah Winfrey Show, it perfectly captured how the Los Angeles Lakers have been defending, basically handing out points like prizes. You get a basket, everybody gets a basket. And when he followed it up with the Washington Generals comparison, the team known for losing to the Harlem Globetrotters, the joke hit even harder because it wasn't just comedy, it was commentary. The Lakers' perimeter defense has been so porous that opposing players look like stars, strolling into the paint or rising into open jumpers with little resistance, making the team feel less like a contender and more like the setup act for whoever comes to town. The sting of the joke is what made it land. Charles Barkley essentially compared the Los Angeles Lakers, a 17-time champion and the franchise of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kobe Bryant, to the Washington Generals, the perennial foil to the Harlem Globetrotters. The Globetrotters are the spectacle. The Generals exist to make them shine. Barkley's point wasn't just about losing. It was about how easily opponents seemed to look comfortable, explosive, even flashy against this Lakers defense. The laughter in the studio came from the exaggeration, but the uncomfortable truth underneath is what gave it weight when effort, resistance, and cohesion slip. Even a historic franchise can look like the supporting cast in someone else's highlight reel. When Charles Barkley joked that Lawrence Frank and the Los Angeles Clippers had waved every color flag imaginable, not just white, it was classic exaggeration with a pointed edge, especially given the ongoing injury narrative surrounding Kawhi Leonard. But the sharper focus of the segment was the Los Angeles Lakers and the reality behind their position in the standings.